Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome to the first ever video on my channel for 2017. And I figured we'd do something a little bit different today since, well, I could just upload another gameplay video, but I sort of wanted to set the precedent for what you can expect from my channel in the coming years. So today we're going to be talking about something that is very near and dear to my heart, which is Atlus. So Atlus is already just, before the year even started, we're saying, yeah, we're going to announce a lot of stuff in 2017. It's going to blow your mind. 2017 is ours. And I'm just like, whoa. Calm down. You just announced your upcoming project, which I guess we might as well start with, which is Project ReFantasy. Now, just a little brief history lesson with Atlus as a company. Back when they were owned by Namco in like the 80s, pretty much 30 years ago, or even more, I think, yeah. They made games that were sort of in the modern setting, but incorporated fantasy elements from other games in Japanese culture, such as Dragon Quest. And since then, only rarely has Atlus produced games in the fantasy genre. Two outliers are Etrian Odyssey, which, from what I can gather, the core team of Atlus doesn't really have too much involvement with. It's kind of like their stepson, and the critically acclaimed Radiant Historia for the DS, which also the OST for that game will, throughout the video, be played during this video, so pretty great music, just wanted to throw that out there. But this is a really big deal. This elf character has been shown off in a lot of media, the weekly Famitsu, that was the cover art, and it's drawn by the lead artist for Persona. So, straight up, this is big. This is really big, not only for the company, but just for gaming in general. And I am obviously an Atlus fanboy. I'm excited to see what type of spin the core Atlus team has for this game. Now, it has already been announced that Shoji Meguro will be doing the music for this game. Katsura Hishino, director of Shin Megami Tensei 3, Nocturne, Persona 3 and 4, Persona 5, and also Catherine. This guy, basically anything he touches turns out to be a masterpiece and beloved by fans. But the A-team is still not done yet. The character designer for the Persona series, Shigenori Soejima, will also be doing the character design for this game. So just straight off the bat, you got Shoji Meguro, Katsura Hishino, Shigenori Soejima. This game is already looking like a masterpiece because these are the most recognizable names from Atlus. For good reason. They've worked their way up and are now the forerunners of the company. And the fact that they are on this new team, Studio Zero, is giving a lot of hype to this specific project. Now currently, details are extremely scarce, except for the fact that Atlus will be trying their normal game design in a fantasy world, which has not been seen to this day. The only thing we really have to go off of is some of the concept art that was shown off during the live stream announcing the game, where a lot of Japan's like pseudo-celebrities in the game industry gave their best wishes to Atlus, and the creator of Nier said, please don't do this, I want to keep my show, more or less, and that was really funny. But the fact that Atlus is taking this new direction really does excite me, because for the past couple years, a lot of diehard Atlus fans that at least got into the franchise during the PS2 Renaissance era, where it was just classic game after classic game after classic game being released on that console, they were kind of scared, and for good reason. After Persona 5 came out, everyone's like, well, get ready for another wave of Persona 5 spin-offs, and never Shin Megami Tensei game ever again. But no, they're not doing that. I mean, I'm sure we're going to get some Persona 5 spin-offs, like Persona 5 dancing during the daytime or midnight or whatever the heck. But just the fact that we have this carrot to dangle in front of us, which might be literally a masterpiece, which is Project ReFantasy, is helping sort of lessen the blow of the inevitable Persona 5 arena and its inevitable sequel. Now, I sound like super skeptical when I say that. Don't get me wrong, I loved pretty much all the Persona like 3 and 4 spin-off games. Persona Q, it was pretty good for an Etrian Odyssey game. There was a couple things I personally would have changed, but a pretty great RPG. Persona 4 Arena Ultimax might have had a really strange story at times, but still a very beloved fighting game because, yeah, Atlus literally has a fighting game now, so hoping for a sequel for that. I'm pretty sure it's gonna happen, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see. And last but not least, Persona 4 Dancing All Night. Oh boy, I'll come back to that one another day. But yeah, it's pretty safe to assume Atlus is probably going to do that same thing again because it was very profitable for them. Atlus takes a while to create their main RPGs, except for Persona 3 and Persona 4. They had like no time difference between them, but Persona 4 to Persona 5, that was a really long gap of development time because Atlus was working on next-gen hardware, which to this day, there's only been 2 games. Catherine, which was PS3, relatively simple game in the grand scheme of things. There's not a lot of like large open worlds and a lot of 3D models they had to make, but Persona 5, rightfully so, took a ton of time for them to make. So hopefully Project Refantasy doesn't take them too long. I think realistically it shouldn't because they already have a lot of time with the PS4 hardware, which, yeah, shouldn't be a big surprise to anybody. This game is going to come out on PS4. For the most part, Atlus sort of has a deal with Sony where all their really big releases are pretty much Sony exclusive, so I'd put my money if this is a console RPG, which it hasn't even been confirmed to be one yet. It's probably coming out on PS4, but for all we know, it could be a 3DS game. I sure heck hope not, because I love PS4 games. Anyways, so we got it. The A-team of Atlus is working on Refantasy, but that does make some other fans really skeptical, like, okay, what's going on with Persona? And in an interview with the CEO of Atlus, he commented on saying that the core members of the Persona team, which are pretty much Shoji Meguro, Katsura Hishino, and Soejima, they're not going anywhere, but now that they are done with Persona 5, we finally have the people that we want to work on Project Refantasy. So for those Persona fans who are just flat out sick of a fantasy setting, I really don't think this is going to subtract too much from other Persona titles or Shin Megami Tensei titles. In fact, we might not have to wait too long to hear about other titles coming from Atlus. Now, this is very surprising for me because if you know anything about Atlus's internal workings, they are not a very large company. In 2014, it was reported they have exactly 121 employees working at the studio. Now, logic would dictate that number would shoot up a little bit now that they've been acquired by Sega, and obviously they're working on bigger games that require more staff, but in a statement released by Naoto Hiroka, he stated, "We're steadily developing other titles behind the scenes, including the Persona series. We plan to announce future titles in this new year, without keeping you waiting too long," which sounds very, very hopeful. And on top of that, Kayazuka Yamai on the Team Maniacs, which is the development team for the mainline Shin Megami Tensei games, also said this: "The Shin Megami Tensei series will be celebrating its next milestone towards future developments next year," referring to this year because this was said in 2016. Just throwing that out there, but I hope to be able to share something with everyone next year. So, we just got Shin Megami Tensei 4 Apocalypse here in the States, but it's already been out basically for a year in Japan, so it already sounds like the team that makes mainline Shin Megami Tensei is already working on something else, and they hope to share it with us very, very soon. And on the Persona spectrum of things, Kazuhisa Wada stated, "This was a year of preparation. While taking input, we were making the soil for the next big harvest." So it sounds like straight off the bat, Atlus is like, alright, last year, we're working on Persona 5, getting that out. Now that's done, we're opening the floodgates for everything else we've been working on. So next Tokyo Game Show, or even sooner, most likely sooner because Atlus usually doesn't like to compete with other like studios when they announce their big titles, because at the end of the day, they're still not the biggest RPG development company in Japan. But things are starting to look up for Atlus. Now that they're getting a little bit more attention, I feel this is literally their year, which means next year will be the year for us, because we're probably going to get to the games a little bit slower, but you know, you can't really help that. You can't rush perfection, but maybe with Persona 5 coming out here in the States, it is slated and expected to be a really big hit, seeing how the install base for the PS4 relatively high here in America, just like in Japan, and the just hype and anticipation revolving around this title might finally be the thing to make Atlus Japan realize, hey, there's a market for this too. Now that they're releasing their next Persona game and it's not on the Vita, the worst selling console, I think, in recent history, but that's besides the point. What I'm trying to say here is that, at least for America, most likely in 2017, we're going to be getting Persona 5, which has been delayed to April 4th. That's okay. It'll be here before we know it, guys. Just 4 more months, but And also Etrian Odyssey 5. Now, Etrian Odyssey 5 has been out in Japan for, I think, a pretty long time. Chances are we might get some localization news on that in the summer. That's just my estimation. It's not too unreasonable to ask for that, or expect that, I guess. But on the Japanese side of things, what is the company working on? We don't know, but we can guess. So that's what I'm going to be doing for the remainder of this video. So the Persona team has already stated that they're working on something. Is it going to be another spin-off, like Persona 4 Dancing All Night? Is, like, Arc System Works helping make Persona 5 Arena? Honestly, that seems like the most realistic and safe thing to speculate on. They've already said that, like, the franchise really did get a boost from its own fighting game, and the spin-off titles were not super difficult to make because they had involvement from other studios. Minus Persona 4 Dancing All Night, which apparently had a really rough development cycle and had to, like, get internal members of Atlus to help make the quality of it not terrible. But outside of that, the spin-off titles, from what I can gather, they were great, pretty well received. So I think the Persona team would be like, alright, well, we gotta kill time to done making Persona 6, let's think and make some more spin-offs. Or they could not do that. Now, I'm not going to spoil anything that happens in Persona 5, but it's pretty darn safe to assume that we're going to get a FES or a golden version of Persona 5, because I'll just say this right now, there's a lot of room that they can add on to it. The total in-game hours to complete the game have been revealed to us, and I'll just be honest with you, I feel like they could add a little bit more. Obviously, it's a little too early to be speculating on what that title could include, because realistically, it could happen, but I also think that with Atlus's, like, newfound love of DLC, if they really did want to add additional content to Persona 5 and not upset fans, they could just very easily, like, do that, like Persona 5 Episode 0 or something really Japanese sounding like that. But I think that's also maybe being thought of or in the pipeline for the company. For mainline fans, this is the 25th anniversary of Shin Megami Tensei. I wanna hope, and I wanna pray, that Shin Megami Tensei 5 would be released this year, but man, that is unlikely. First off, let's just figure out the gap between Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne and SMT 4. It was like 5 years, so it's kind of safe to assume we might get a new SMT mainline game in like another 5 years, because at the moment, mainline, as sad as this is to say, does not sell as well as the Persona series. It's just flat out not as marketable. Some people say, oh, it's just old, outdated gameplay. I disagree with that heavily, but that's the fact of the matter. It doesn't sell as well. Is it a high priority for Atlus to make it sell well? Maybe. Who knows? But at the moment, Operation Babe Hunt is just way more marketable than the really serious undertones and alignment system of the mainline Shin Megami Tensei. So what I'm thinking the Maniacs team is working on is instead an SMT spin-off to give us a little bit more time for SMT 5. Now, my memory is just flat out terrible, but if I do recall correctly, the last, like, genuine spin-off in the SMT universe was Devil Survivor 2. Not Record Breaker, I'm just talking about the vanilla version on the DS. That's a long time. I think we've been waiting for a new game, at least a spin-off of SMT, for quite a while. Could it be a sequel to Raidou Kuzunoha? Who knows? Probably not, if I'll be honest, because they don't really have a lot of international, like, presence. Could it be Digital Devil Saga, the third game? No, because that plot is completely wrapped up, I'm pretty sure. I think what Atlus is going to try and do is make something completely new. Now, I can't find the articles to back up this info, but a long time ago, like, Atlus did, like, get a patent for this really strange sounding thing. It kind of reminded me of Yokai Watch, actually. It was like something with like basically like a comp, but it was a device where you could summon demons. I don't know whatever happened to that. That's like, oh my gosh, that was like 6 years ago, come to think of it, because the 3DS still wasn't out. Could that have something tied to that? Probably not. They just got that trademark and forgot about it. I think this is going to be something completely new that Atlus has never tried before, or at least I'm hoping so, because honestly, mainline needs something to compete with the juggernaut that is Persona. And last but not least, we also have Vanillaware, who teased their game 13 Sentinel, I guess, Rim at last year's TGS. Actually, no, that was in 2015. Oh my gosh, they have not said anything about that game. I'm pretty sure we're gonna get some new news about that. It's been a while they've been working on that one. I don't really have a lot to say about this game because it doesn't necessarily interest me a ton, because there's no demons and there's no Persona to summon. I'm sure it'll be great if Atlus has some involvement with it. I'm just saying, currently not on my radar, but hey, could be cool. And speaking of the lack of Persona and demons, the developers of Project Brief Fantasy have stated multiple times, this is not Megami Tensei, and this is not Persona. This is its own thing, which, holy crap, can I just say this right now? Atlus does not have a lot of people working on it, right? How do they have time to make all these games? Katsura Hashino, Soejima, stinking Meguro, how do they have time? They just finished Persona 5, right? When do these guys take a vacation? It seems like they're just going from game to game to game to game and making these masterpieces. I don't know when. I'm a little bit concerned for Soejima. If he keeps drawing like this, he's gonna be able to draw later on in life. I don't know. I'm just saying this right now. I'll be honest, the past year for SMT fans and just Atlus in general has been, for the most part, slightly rocky. Tokyo Mirage Sessions turned out to be okay at best. SMT4 Apocalypse, I personally like, but some people really disliked the direction that they were taking. And for the most part, just because Persona 5 has been constantly delayed over and over and over again, a lot of fans have been very afraid of Atlus's future now that they've been purchased by Sega. And I just want to say this right now, I am admiring the confidence that Atlus is portraying, at least in these interviews, saying that last year was the year of preparation, now it's time to move forward and hopefully show you what we've been doing. So honestly, I'm very excited for this. I'm very excited for Project Brief Fantasy, actually, and I really hope that's... There's a lot of things in Japanese media right now. Let's hope that title does not stick, but I'm very, very excited for that specific franchise. I've been actually playing through Radiant Historia in my spare time, which is another game. The developers didn't really have anything to do with Project Brief Fantasy and vice versa, but it's pretty cool to see Atlus having some involvement with a more traditional RPG setting, and I hope that they put their own unique twists on this, because based on the concept art, it does seem a little safe. But at the same time, Atlus never goes with the conventional, vanilla. They always try and innovate and do things differently than everyone else. And it seems like, at least from the RPG perspective, Final Fantasy, over time, it went from being castles and stuff, and now it's been very modernized, where Final Fantasy 15, you were literally in a car. And with games like Earthbound and Yokai Watch having a very, modern setting, it's literally you in the real world encountering all these crazy things, right? It seems like Atlus is realizing that, and it's okay, they're in our turf now, and it's future setting or modern day. Let's actually go back and regress and, take it back to zero, which is why the team's called Team Zero. But honestly, not a lot to talk about as far as fine details, though. As we continue into the new year, though, I just want to say this right now, I will be reporting on things of value that Atlus announces. Hopefully Tokyo Game Show will have something good for us. Some people are already speculating that in March, we're going to get big news. And I'm like, where'd you pull that from? I have no idea where that came from, but yes. Seems like Persona 5, a really big hit in Japan. A lot of Japanese game developers said it was their game of the year, and that's great for the company. I'm so happy to see that they're finally getting recognized as this just premier game developers, because truthfully, I know I'm a fanboy, but I'm a fanboy for good reason. I'm kind of like a snob when it comes to my video games, I guess, and Atlus usually keeps me very happy, but yes, that's really all I wanted to get out there for you guys. Now, a little brief update from me. The year 2017 will also sort of be a lot of things changing, but a lot of the old stuff too. It's pretty safe to assume all of you should know by now that on April 4th, we will be launching our Persona 5 playthrough, maybe even sooner. Who the dump knows? They might magically push the date, closer to March. That'd be pretty cool, Atlus. But that's not all. This year, I really want to change a lot of how I do things and really try and mix up the formula. Now is like my 6th year of making YouTube videos, and for the most part, things have been pretty stagnant. And I've kind of just been regressing creativity-wise for a while, just doing the, the safe stuff. But now, this year, I'm going to try and do a couple of different things to mix up the pot a tad. That doesn't mean you're going to start seeing, like, I don't know, like, food reviews or anything, but expect some new things where you're like, oh wow, he actually did that. I like to talk finer details, but I'm still like planning things out, and most importantly, seeing if half of what I want to do is even physically possible, but that's besides the point. Our 100,000 subscriber special is coming soon. Thank you all so much. When I saw that number, it didn't feel real. It felt like I was dreaming, but anyways, I'll talk more about that at a later date. This year is looking already amazing. Not only for me, because I have you guys with me, but also for my favorite game developer, Atlus. And later on this year, the Nintendo Switch is also to be revealed. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. Maybe ReFantasy will be for the Switch. Who knows? But anyways, thank you all so much for watching. Have a great day, and see you in the next video. Bye.